Drew, could you get the door? I taped it, so it's still open. Thank you. Okay, we're going live. Oh. Okay. Welcome to this poetry reading on a lovely Saturday afternoon. Thanks for coming in here. I know you could be outside enjoying the sunshine. You chose to be here, and we appreciate that. My name is Greg Newton. I am the co-founder of the Bureau of General Services Queer Division, which is the space you find yourselves in right now. I'm being helped by Drew Pizarra, our volunteer. The Bureau is an all-volunteer queer bookstore. We've been around since 2012, and we've been here at the center since 2014. And the short explanation for our lengthy name is that we are a government agency for a government that doesn't yet exist. We wish to bring it into being in our needy world. So we are all volunteer, and we do rely on donations and sales to keep this boat afloat. So I'm going to pass around a bag. We have suggested donation of $10, but give whatever you can if you can. You can also Venmo us at BGSQD, with letters all around you. And if you'd rather spend your money on books, we strongly encourage you to do that. So you've got options, many ways to support us. Let me not pass it to any of the readers. Doing your part. I'm going to read a land acknowledgement, and then we'll jump right in. I'll be handing it over to Michael Broder. See this baby. So the Bureau acknowledges that our organization operates on the unceded land of the Munsee Lenape. We are actively seeking to partner with and provide material support to a local queer Indigenous organization. It's taking a little longer than we wanted, but we hope to make an announcement about this partnership in the near future. But in the meantime, we encourage you to join the Bureau in signing up to make a monthly donation to the American Indian Community Houses Manhattan Fund. So some of the money you just donated is also going to the Manhattan Fund. The Manhattan Fund, according to its website, is an invitation to all settlers and non-native people who wish to acknowledge the legacy of theft and genocide that comprise the history of New York City and the United States. So you can find out more at manhattanfund.org. Now it is my pleasure to welcome the poet and the founder of Indolent Books, Michael Broder.
Thank you, Greg. It's so great to be here. I think this might be like my first event here in post-pandemic times. I don't know. But it's really nice. So I'm going to make some introductions. So reading today from their new award-winning books are Kevin McLellan and Ed Madden. And starting us off is local favorite, I don't know, local star of the poetry and language world, Jayson T. Smith. So I'll just get started with introducing Jayson. I'm doing these like very historically biographically. Jayson T. Smith was born in the Bronx in 1992. A lot of this is from Jayson's website. They are an interdisciplinary artist, writer, and curator, currently living and working in Brooklyn, where I also live and work. Primarily working within language, sound, and movement. Their work is interested in Black performance and/or interiority, collaboration, and somatic practices. Jayson has received support from the New York Foundation for the Arts, Poetry Project, the Poetry Foundation, Callaloo, the Conversation Literary Festival. Oh, that was an and the Conversation Literary Festival. Their writing appears in the HTML Review, West Branch, Boundary 2, the Poetry Project's Recluse, Gulf Coast, and the Offing, among other journals. Jayson's performance work has been featured in numerous venues throughout the US, including the Guggenheim Museum, MoMA PS1, the Loft Literary Center, the Home School, and the Ace Hotel, New York City, or NYC. Jayson founded and curates the Nomad Readings, a Brooklyn and elsewhere based series featuring artists in relationship to community, process, and collaboration. I met Jayson, I believe, in June of 2018 when I was putting together a Pride poetry reading right here at the Bureau. And I was blown away by their poetry that day, and I have remained in that state ever since. So human beings, let's have a warm BGSQD welcome to Jayson T. Smith.
Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Y'all look beautiful. It's good to see you.
You're beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
That's right.
So a couple of thank yous before I start. First of all, I'm really happy to be here. Thank you so much to the Bureau for hosting this beautiful, beautiful space. Thank you, Michael, for hosting us again. I'm really excited to read with you too. Congratulations on the book. And before I get started, I would like to talk about a person who is very, very, very important to me, and that is my grandmother. She is everything. She basically like raised me. And she passed away very recently, as of like this Wednesday. And so I'm in the middle of a lot of things right now. And one of them, I think, is being really grateful to have lived in the presence of a woman who lived and died by her choices. She was not ashamed of them. She never for a second doubted them, and everyone around her knew it. She was so unapologetic about who she was and the person that she willed herself to be, and the people that she was raising us to be. And so, yeah, this reading is going to be in honor of her. This first poem that I'm going to read is by Keila Oliver. It's called Wishes. I do want to be soft. Hold a given name as if it were lover. Cultivate whorehound to feed neuroses in troubled times. Allow some hoopla in these rooms. I couldn't I? Temper heresy with a friend of mine. Be measured and fortified. Laugh at nothing discernible. Myself, be prescient dreamer busy with wines. Aware of henna onks. An old soul and sometimes the innocent fool. Irrationally content alongside the grinning rain. Okay. Poems I wrote. So things that you should know about me. I'm interested in the high lyric. I'm interested in gay shit. As I am continually reminded, fascism is alive and well. And so, yeah, it's really important for me to be interested in those things, especially in this moment. And I encourage you to be interested in them in the ways that you talk with them. This first one is a piece that I wrote for this choreographer, his master's. It's called On Fathers and Swords. In the beginning was the gold rush, a time to strip sunlight from our temples. Suffering and its technology summoned a feeling. For the sake of resemblance and record, yes, I was sick with consumption. Paratactic again, made without worry as the water, always the water, curdled, rose like a myth, as all is said was done. Underneath anesthetics, ordinary clamor, who will translate? Reader, I opened onto his fist and therein was the poem. My confessional self, ran through, rendered for rent. Another music should accommodate me, meanwhile. Radiant with need, I watched the men, Kendall, Marty, Don, manifest and sob in the sand. What was done as done, an industry of inertia in their shoulder blades. Let me tell you as I was told, days call for a citizen, darling, of emaciated retinas, a soft sight, imperial optimism, chic. Had I known what quotidian would cost, would I lie first, wrench cardamom from between my teeth, amble towards intention? What kinds of denial could I be a wife to, allowed to hound the seams? Because After it was taken, I gave it away. An urge to repeat oneself remains. Okay. There was a summer that I was really obsessed with Robert Mapplethorpe and Black books specifically. I'm thinking about the fetish in a lot of different ways now, but this was kind of the start of that conversation for me. I was just writing poems to the figures in the book. This is called Milton Moore, 1983, which is obviously after. The litany of doing motherfuckers dirty is truly a matter of style. Maternal or material, I appear prepared for simpler action. I've stopped dancing. The opiates of unstable economies call me insouciant. One hopes I profit off eating myself eventually. Devotion is dramatic like that. I chant Plato hates the poets to justify all condescension. And I'm different. I disapprove of ephemera. Self-worth is a contextual problem. Important oneself is implied. Look, the ocean, mythology. I am symmetrical, eternal, obscured from meaning, aspirating like a stone. I'll ask for hypothesis the moment he removes his gaze from me. Two more. Western hearts at the edge of saying, starts the quote. The familiarity of this narrative does nothing to appease the hunger of recorded memory. In a very real sense, every writing as revision makes the discovery all over again, Hortense Fillers. Fool that I am, I indulge apparition in silence. First brain dutiful to occlusion, stumbling through narrative. Refraction and faux morality standing as apprentice, or one feels special, refrains, I bought something. Did you ever think that you would be this rich in negative space? Subtle dilemma while strapped for signifiers. Under a formal project, I find decorum. Abstraction is formal. The father is formal. A noun to the slave is formal. What an ornament abandon makes. What a rain hits my window. I take a, throw it back, wreck the tempo. Syllable, feeling. Commercial dignity wasted on want. That's the real tea. That's the denouement, refrain. I bought something. Gathered a self in the lust of instruction. Fantasy formed in couplets. Okay. One more. Yeah, does that feel good? One more?
No, two.
Two? Okay. Thank you. Trying to think of stuff all the time.
You can have one of my poems.
It's really kind and also I'm very excited to finish them. Okay, so I will do, let's end with these two. Okay, another ekphrastic, and then, yeah, two kinds of ekphrastic, sure. One's a traditional one. Lorna Simpson is a photographer that I really fuck with. She has this piece called Gestures Reenactments. This title comes from a line in one of the frames. It's called Sometimes It Stands Like a Mother. Of course, the referent is a closed fist. Excuse me. I am often struck dumb with the purpose of metaphor. Tucked away in my undone logic is a serious question of order. Incentive for a body to do until it doesn't. They'll say it was simply a gesture to what I wanted. That one hand on a hip suggests joy. I was enigmatic, at least for a camera. And oh, the room. No genius, Jesus, just hyphenate longings. An undefined revulsion. Is it clear now? Whatever invades me ripens. And last but not least, So this is a poem that I wrote in, I guess, 2016, and I keep on returning to it. Hopefully it ends up in a book somewhere. It's floating around my manuscript as we speak. But yeah, I don't know if any of you have those things that kind of just call at you like every so often to just return and be like, hey, I'm here. This is one of those things, and one day I'm going to figure out why, a larger body of work. But for now, this is, oh, and also you can find me on the internet and on Instagram and all of those things. I don't have a book out, but funerals are expensive. I do have Venmo if you want to talk to me after. And so, yeah, with that said, thank you so much for having me. This is Watching Paul Mooney hum Amazing Grace, post 9/11, Anthony Hopkins from Crown Pride. Don't try this at home by yourself. We're at war and I'm American again, sleeping at 8 like shit. New, visibly cankered, coy, mythology locked in before morning coffee. There's an order to this. A working list of what keeps my teeth white. Dick, chicken, everything but solitude. It's unbearable. 12 motherfuckers going to flight school bad. And reproduction is so certain, but you knew that. Peep the joke hiding. I leave him a blues and he leaves me for dead. Who's to say about being pathetic and functional? You got shoes, I got shoes. I suppose we should be intimate. Maybe even moan at our echoes. It's mostly productive with a punchline involved. I haven't smirked in weeks. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jason. I'm very satisfied with any reading that includes both the words insouciant and being mom. You don't really hear that often. both of them in one reading. So wait, we were talking before about the order between you two. So who's next? Okay. So Ed Madden. I decided I was really into when people were born. Ed Madden was born in 1963 and grew up on a rice farm in Newport, Arkansas. Ed studied English and French at Harding University in Searcy, Arkansas, where he earned his BA in 1985. Received a second bachelor's degree in biblical studies from the Institute for Christian Studies in Austin, Texas in 1992. He completed his doctorate in English at UT Austin in 1994. Ed is a professor of English at the University of South Carolina in Columbia, where he directs the program in Women's and Gender Studies. I had the pleasure of working in close proximity to Ed in the 2011-2012 academic year when I was a postdoctoral fellow at USC in the Department of Languages, Literatures, and Cultures as a relatively recently minted PhD in classics of all things. Ed's poetry collections include Arc from Sibling Rivalry in 2016, Nest, that's Salmon Poetry 2014, Prodigal Variations, Lethe 2011, and Signals from University of South Carolina Press in 2008. And is also the author of many scholarly essays that appear in journals and edited volumes. In 2008, Fairleigh Dickinson University Press published Tiresian Poetics, Modernism, Sexuality, Voice, 1888 to 2001. In Greek mythology, as you may know, Tiresias was a blind prophet of Apollo who spent 7 years as a transgender woman. Ed's brilliant study reconstructs the cultural history of Tiresias as a sexually liminal figure through close readings of works by Victorian, modernist, and other 20th century poets and writers such as Juna Barnes and Austin Clarke. Ed's latest poetry collection, Puka in Arkansas, was selected by Timothy Liu for the Hilary Tam Capital Collection and published by the Word Works earlier this year. I'm going to read, Tim Liu was originally scheduled to be part of this reading, and then he wasn't. And so I'm going to sort of invoke his presence by using his blurb to talk about the book itself. This book redeems the curse of where and what we are born into by conjuring spells, bestial, animistic, the poet strutting around like a mythic centaur, or if you like, a domestic ass. This book flies in the face of making the rough places plain and the crooked straight. You won't have to have grown up queer in the deep rural South to be touched by the lyrical antics that go on here. This alternative gospel spreading its haunches till every knee bow or bow, every tongue confess This chorus of hallelujah inflected or infected by its own down and dirty twang. Human beings, let's have a warm BGSPD welcome for Ed Madden.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you to SQD. I'm going to pour myself some water just because I know I will cough in the middle. I know, so forgive me. While I'm doing that, I will tell you what a puka is. So if you don't know this, a puka is a shapeshifter from Irish folklore. He's a trickster. He's not good or evil. He just does things. He will show up at your house and do your chores unless you ask him to, and then he will promptly disappear. He tells stories. He shows up, mostly he's known for showing up on the road late at night and abducting you and taking you someplace you've never been, which is a good excuse for being drunk on the road and not getting back in time. He does things like piss on the blackberries at the end of summer so that you know they're his blackberries after that, not yours. And he can show up as anything. He often shows up in Irish folklore as a horse. He can show up as a dog, as an eagle, as an old man with goat's ears. And if you've ever seen the truly awful Jimmy Stewart movie Harvey, you know that he can show up as a giant invisible rabbit as well. So, and I just thought Puka was a really useful figure. I mean, I grew up Irish American and I teach Irish literature, but I thought it was a really useful figure for thinking about growing up gay, growing up closeted. What better figure for being a closeted queer kid than a shapeshifter? But also was thinking about all the ways we encounter otherness and other people and other things that sort of take us places we would never have planned to go before. When I was a young animal, I learned by watching others, my father and the other men, my mother closing the door. The field smelled like a field. I didn't know that then. I could smell my young uncle on his hand-me-down shirts and pants, the buckskin coat with fringed sleeves, smell my grandmother's home when I tugged them on. On the farm, we were a pack, the other cubs and me, roaming the dirt roads and fields, slinging clods at cars and one another, pissing on anything into the fire they built behind the shop to burn the trash, the small cans exploding in the flames. We were sunburnt, chigger-bit. Our mothers checked our skin for ringworm and ticks. I was a young animal. I learned by watching others. There are a number of retold fairy tales in the book. Well, some of them were, how's the way of saying this? There are retold fairy tales and then they're just made up fairy tales, just me playing around with shit from fairy tales and making them work together. So a number of poems are simply titled fairy tale. Fairy tale. What he wore that day was darkness, a silver shimmer of teeth, spit threading his words, the sour of dried sweat and dog fennel and yellow leaves, and nothing like what they'd said, though we'd heard the story before, how he lingered and where. The door where little boys disappeared, pull the bobbin and the latch will go up. And there he was, watching me all loose and lizardy in worn out jeans, his lean and lank, silvery trees, a path fizzling out in animal trails, just instinct and smell, and me no longer a boy. He stood, said nothing, bog moist and rust worn, a bolt and a grin, thick and itchy, and it was there and then, and wind on bare skin, neck bristle and stiffened, red shirt on a limb, a way to make do, and something or someone to sink your teeth into. What that means. I wrote a number of poems about meeting the puka too, and this is one of those. So instructions on meeting the puka. Number one, don't go out on the old roads by yourself. That is where, that is when. Sometimes a man, sometimes a horse. If it has golden eyes, if it speaks, it is never, it is always. If you have spurs, then. If you don't, then. Some of us were made to be ridden, riddled, riven. Never mind your mother, it says, keep your hold. Never mind whether you do or don't, it says, I will make you know. Sometimes a dog, a pig, sometimes a bear. If the frost has silvered the blackberries, if they've spit on what you want, sometimes the necessary task, sometimes a story you've heard before. Come with me, it says, and I will bring you home. Sometimes a lie, sometimes the truth. Sometimes a man with the head of a goat. He will give you gold coins, nothing but green leaves. He will teach you new songs. They won't make sense back home, but you know how now. Yeah, I'm going to read some of the poems. I don't know how to explain it. So this one is called Europass Summer 1985. I'm reading it because I know it's Kevin's favorite poem. It could also be called Poem with 4 lines from Tears for Fears, which I'm very aware of because I had to pay for the copyright use. I learned a lesson. But it also is braiding stories together from my summer 1985 in Europe. Europass Summer 1985. You spoke French much of the summer. Tears for Fears was playing everywhere that year. You wanted milk, but all you had was water and a bottle in your backpack. You thought you should go to Ireland, even though you were running out of time, running out of money. There was a little train station somewhere in Germany. On the train, a graduate student from the States was talking to you about Beckett, the unnameable. The sign said, Rosslar, you disembarked, land of your forebears, and all that. You weren't ready. Shout, let it all out. He leaned over the seat to talk to you, his arm dangling down, ropey, brown from the sun. You left the boat, you got back on the boat. You wrote about that German train station in your journal, but your journal never tells the truth. These are the things I can do without. You ate what you had, the bread, the apple, the tinned fish. Somewhere in France, you went to the bank to see how much money your parents had sent you for the coming months. What was his name? Your journal says it was Adam. You walked toward the village, you turned, walked back. You shouldn't have to sell your soul. You wrote about the boat in your journal, the stairwell where you slept, the sea through the windows, and looking the other direction, the window to the dining room. You couldn't stop staring at his beard, his open collar, the dark hair on his thin chest. A glass of milk glowed like on the table like an opal. You had to meet your French teacher for summer missions among the Belgian Catholics, the Swiss. This was before email, before ATMs. This was before your parents knew. You told him that you had read Godot at a summer program in high school. You didn't tell him that your mother went through the book circling all the dirty words. You hunkered under the stairs with the other dirty backpackers crossing the channel. You weren't ready. You were between things. In your journal, you did not write about the toilet in the station, the hole in the wall between the stalls. You didn't know the word for it. No one was on the other side, but still you knew. Above the stalls, a window letting in birdsong and sun. Come on, I'm talking to you. By the end of the summer, you would dream in French, wake up speechless and confused. Instructions on meeting the puka, number 2. There is never only one wolf. You are no longer a child. You are no longer a boy or a girl. The forest is where, the old road is where. In the dark, you are only flesh. In the absence of light, touch, ripple of muscle, hide, fur, spurs. In the absence of light, scent of piss, the stiff palm of sweat. Becoming is always other than filiation. There is never only one wolf. In the absence of light, sound, a throat raw with want. In the absence of light, tongue, swallow what you don't yet know. The boy will not come back the same. The boy will not come back. Go outside, close the door. A puka in Arkansas. My dad was dying. He had been dying for weeks. I went for a walk down the old road beside the family home, the sun declining in the distant trees. Be careful, my mother said. There are wolves in the fields. She said she had seen the tracks. I used the walk to phone my love back home, the man they didn't know, refused to know, a name they never used. The nearest field was fringed with what the combines left behind of last year's harvest, threaded now with insects and weeds. Tractors would plow it all down soon enough, and death would be here too, soon. On the road ahead, a small dog trotted just beyond me. The wind picked up. I tucked my phone away. No one headed out or home, no one on the road, just the dog. It paused, looked back as if to ask, how far do you think we'll go tonight? Sorry, I just realized this glass is cracked. There are 3 up here though, so I'm refilling another one. But I fear there's water on the floor.
We'll take it.
Okay.
You can have mine too.
No, I just. Fairy tale. Tears lift, sorry, tears. Fairy tale. Trees lift into the mist, lift above the splatter of snow, that slash of white horizon. The woods are quiet, the sky is snow, the sky sifts through thin limbs. Some god has slung the moon down, splashing biscuit light across it all. No one is coming for you, no one. Fairy tale. What you thought was a wolf was not a wolf. It was your father, mother, brother. You did not remember what big teeth they had, what claws. When your father died, the wolf was at the door ready. The wolf wanted you. The wolf wanted you to love what you couldn't have. The wolf made you beg. The wolf made you hard. The wolf said, good boy. The wolf said nothing. What you thought was a wolf was not a wolf. The wolf was a darkness beyond the fence. Once there was a boy who left his door unlocked, asked you to bring a friend and hold him down. You did this. Later, after it was over, he thanked you. Later, a year or so after, you heard he died, a heart attack, and no one found him for days. What you thought was a wolf was not a wolf. The wolf is in the mirror. The wolf is at the door is unlocked. The wolf is a man sleeping, surrounded by flowers. He smells better than you remember. If you kiss the wolf, he will wake up. Psalm after the 23rd Psalm. Tim is my therapist. I am learning to trust him. He motions me to the green sofa. There's always bottled water on the table. He leads me to talk about things I don't want to talk about. If I make my way to the top of the dark stairs, he makes a space for talking and for not talking. Sometimes the room gets crowded. My dead father, my distant mother, and all those messages from my brother I can pull up right there on my phone. In their presence, he asks, what would happen if you stopped doing your family's work of shaming you? That question follows me the rest of the day. Not the one. I am not the son you wanted. I am not the brother you wanted. I am not a birthday on the calendar. I am not a photo on your wall. I am not a postcard you will answer. I am not listed in your phone. I am not on the right side. I am not in the pulpit. I am not in the pew. I am not how you imagined it would go. I am not a story you can tell. I am not the latest news. I am not who you thought I was. I am not the way it should be. I am not the moral of the story. I am not riddled with guilt. I am not covered in sores. I am not unaware of the irony. I am not the difference between then and now. I am not in your Venn diagram. I am not a good fit. I am not good. I am not good enough. I am not at the wedding. I am not dearly beloved. I am not the circle of life. I am not an uncle. I am not a place at the table. I am not a vase of flowers. I am not a mylar balloon. I'm not just driving through. I'm not just stopping by. I'm not around much. I'm not someone you asked to stay, though you did once so I could help. I'm not trying to earn my place. I'm not obedient. I'm not telling you what you want to hear. For years, I was a folded note in my father's wallet that he didn't know whether to send, and then he sent it. I'm not responding to that last text message you sent over a year ago. I'm not someone who writes home anymore. I'm not someone who goes home anymore. I'm not stuck in the past. I'm not letting go of the past. I'm not very rational about this. I'm not this. I'm not that. I'm not one of those or one of them. I'm not one of us. I'm not one of you. I'm not handsome. I'm not wholesome. I'm not holy. I'm not coming home. This is the last one. Thank you again to the bookstore for hosting us. Thank you, Michael, for that very, very sweet introduction. And thank you, Kevin. This has just been a delight. This is, you said, our fourth reading together, right?
Fourth state.
Fourth state. We read it together. Wow. This is my last one. Oh, and thank you. My cousins are actually here. I have family here. They're not in that last one. They wouldn't be here. So this, yeah, there you go. This is my last poem. Thank you all for being here. This is, Sharon Olds once said she's a sucker for happy endings. So I ended my book with a happy ending. My husband, who is not my husband. His priestly gestures, consecrating the broken eggs, hands moving over the stove, slabs of meat skittering in grease, dropped biscuits, big as a cat's head, threaded with cheese. Him making the fountain, making lantana, acanthus, making bloom and ripple song, making the birds. My husband, the blue room, the bright room, best china, best silver lifted from a box in the closet. Its red beds of best silver put back later, for later. My husband, who is not my husband, who is still mine. See him crying in the Dublin airport. He doesn't want you to see. Can you see the eucalyptus, his waxy leaves, his stalk blossoming in the hot sun, pushing up among the marigolds? Scars from this or that on shin or back, wrist or hand, the way the garden loves him, the bees, him among the lilies, his hands lilies, his mouth the twist of quince, his scent, my husband among the lilies. My husband sauntering down the aisles, him sauntering down the aisles of the flea market, dust settling on everything, his small flashlight, his blue eyes, his sound of geese, a train, look, something glitters and is gone. My husband, the gold in the trees falling, and him a coverlet of mulch across the beds, or asleep, the heat of him, the hot water bottle of him, the cat purring at our feet. My husband, who is not my husband, who is still mine. The blue walls say so. The orchid deciding to bloom again. Thank you. Sorry.
Oh, thank you. Can't wait to read the book. Here we go. So Kevin McLellan was born in, I couldn't figure out exactly. Was born in the mid-1960s in Conway, New Hampshire, on the southeastern edge of the White Mountain National Forest. He spent part of his college years in the town of Arundel in the county of West Sussex on the coast of the English Channel in southeast England. In 1996, he was awarded 2 bachelor's degrees, one in English literature from the University of Central Lancashire, which I know how to pronounce because of the Beatles song, right? What is that? Oh, A Day in the Life, right? I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. Central Lancashire in England, and one in creative writing from the University of Southern Maine. In 1999, he completed an MFA in creative writing at Vermont College. Kevin spent some time living in Boston before moving to Cambridge, where his long years, and I made this, a lot of this, as I said, is from publicly available sources, but I made up, where his long years of creative incubation began to bear fruit that others could bite into and savor. Kevin is the author of Hemispheres, that's from Fact Simile Editions, 2019, Ornithology from the Word Works, 2018, Box from Letter R Press, I don't know how they want us to pronounce that, 2016, Tributary, that was Barrow Street in 2015, and Round Trip from Seven Kitchens in 2010. Kevin is constantly, I make it sound like it's bad letter note home to his parents. Kevin has constantly sought innovative pathways into writing and presenting poetry. His chapbook Round Trip includes poems written in collaboration with 15 women poets. Box and Ornithology are particularly innovative projects that combine bookmaking and graphic arts with Kevin's poetry. Kevin's latest poetry collection, In Other Words, You, was selected by Tim Liu for the Hillary Tan Capital Collection and published by the WordWorks earlier this year. That's the whole concept of the joint book tour. Since Tim couldn't be here today, I'm going to read his citation for the book. Tim writes, "This book traffics in the second person. These queer meditations are both directly addressed to and overheard by a beloved you, self, other, reader, conjoined in a dance of enjambed vocables, a syntactic pas de deux of monostichs and couplets punctuated by fragmentary prose epistles. We are reminded of the demands that the libido makes, the joys of rote, that is both written and routine habits, ruptured by the new, all of it backed up by an 80s soundtrack pulsing hard out of the Castro all the way to the UK. So fasten your seatbelts. The you left with will not be the same you upon return." Let's have a warm BGSTD welcome for Kevin McLellan.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Bureau. Thank you, Greg. And of course, Jayson, your poems. Thank you for your poems. That last one just stunned me in a good way. And of course, Ed, it's been such a pleasure. Am I a puka?
Are we all a puka?
I think I'm a puka. I think you've seen my puka.
That's the next
You know this is being live streamed, right?
Oh.
So as I always do, I think I'm gonna read these poems, then I walk into a venue and I'm like, no, I'm just gonna read the second section, and then Nick arrived and I'm like, he has to hear that poem in the first section, so I have no fucking idea what I'm gonna read. So I'm just gonna read. Thank you so much for being here, Nick. And Beth, thank you so much for coming. For Nick, a storm. Tired tired by, your here fuse shortening. By no means explosive, nor in need of a voice condom. Meanwhile, elsewhere, you're not unlike a ballast. So what you need to know about the poems in this manuscript is that there are 3 different strands, and you're not going to experience the form of the poem you just heard, and that the structure is 2-1-2-1-2, meaning that there's the reader is unbalanced throughout intentionally. There is a rhythm to it, but there's never sameness. And within a line, there are slashes, which are disruptive. And then I also, as you heard, adjoin words that are not meant to be together. For example, here fuse, voice condom, they're hyphenated. And then the other strain of poem, which you'll hear, are these Dear You poems, which are these very sort of, they're just letters, and they're very easily understood. And then there are these erasures, for which I won't read. They're definitely meant for the page. Here we go. Demarcate. When your opening sentence is a flutter, you apostrophe or hyphenate or gerund, ing, to a finger. When receptivity, the appearance of a curtain, ringing up, yes. When desire is on the brink, your hand between and not close enough. Not an anthem. Any use of we feels self-serving or assaultive. In other words, you would like his heart inside of you, though his disinterest. Instead, adopt what he said. Each work has its own imperatives, or did he say each word? Further proof, we are unreliable narrators. So I am pausing because I have cataracts and I am having difficulty reading. So I often have to do this. They are not ripe enough for surgery, so I just have to kind of live with it until they are ripe. And then I can have a procedure that will be covered by insurance. Funny how our medical world works, right? After the Age of Consent, which is the album by Bronski Beat, which was a definitive, most important volume of work. After the Age of Consent, Dear You, ran there, turned there, to a small market village in the UK with a castle. Run away, turn away, run away, turn away. I came out when the song came out, not in NH, Valley, where the worn down mountains protected me, a city boy who climbed out of a man well before his voice changed, running and turning. Frames, size of dinner plates, hibiscus flowers you realize are the reason. Blame them for your sexuality. When the forward-leaning into a walker woman sees you approaching, she backs up off the sidewalk, cupping her cigarette, leans back into a fence. You say, "There's room for both of us, dear." She inhales a deep inhale, says, "Be safe." In the middle of the road, a hands-free teenage boy pedals. Anonymity. One point of view. You noticed a shirtless bro lean into another bro, carefully rub sunblock onto his sinewy back. But now the 135-degree angle of the setting sun, elongating the shadows of power lines onto pavement, onto the tan sides of homogeneous beach houses. You miss the bros. They left ages ago, and with sand on their backs. 2 constructs. 2 house painters carry a ladder. You notice a line of parked cars and then him between the rungs. His pants sag. You see more than the elastic to his purple underwear, skin and the top of buttocks. Leaning on the hood, he stretches with a rag and spray bottle. Now the windshield. You wonder if he pays as close attention to dirty dishes, to a partner. 3 glares. The circumference of a water glass, the area around eyes you avoid when applying SPF 30. The forgotten sunglasses, yet aware that you must engage with the river. The cloud, the shape of a chicken claw. Also notice on the other side, the dense tree line. Between your foot and flip-flop, a pebble you duck wag free. Now squint to make out a man's lower back. Dimples as he kisses a woman. Trigger warning. This is about a hate crime that is autobiographical. It was more the threat of the violence. I actually wasn't hit, but you'll hear. License plate number. I'm okay. In fact, they were reported and eventually arrested. And if I have one regret in my life, it was not going to their arraignment. License plate number. Self-assured in denim cutoffs, white tee, Doc Martens, approaching the Castro. From behind you, a car slows, pulls into a shallow drive. Someone says something. You turn, face 4 teens in red jackets. Out the open window, the driver, asks, "Do you like it up the ass?" You ignore him, must continue walking. From behind, hear the swerving, the car gunning at you. Between a tap room and a blue house and alley, you up a chain link fence. The 4-door backs up. With all speed, the smell of burnt tires. Out of nowhere, a mannish bartender appears, asks if you're okay, hands you a book of matches. On the inside flap, the handwriting, a sequence of numbers and letters. You keep seeing the embroidery, the backside of red. Okay, I think this is proof that I might be a puka. Being carried on a litter by 2 shirtless bodybuilders to justify my love at the carpool club. Dear you, it rained that afternoon like most others, and all the genuflecting prairie dogs, the dogs noticed. I was a prairie dog, now a dog. Furthermore, good life. Dear you, released in late '88 in the UK, where I studied distance. But this song is about my spell in San Francisco. I digress. Rimbaud, who used exclamation points in his first lines, and I believe well before syphilis. How many episodes between the last line and his demise? Back in San Francisco and a hate crime in the Castro, perhaps they sensed the vulnerability my father caused. Near the corner of 18th, where I, with 2 other young gays, likely dead now, were promoting The Box, a venue for dancing L's, G's, and B's. This song blaring as I pulsed innocence all before. Thereafter, from treetops to rooftops, the blackbirds, and all that afternoon, their restlessness. You also felt it, as if a something after us premonition. But this morning you overheard desires either invisible or three-pronged. Wait, no, a loud thought. Woke realizing you don't need persuasion. Realize that looking back too long can impair vision. Besides, you forget the something out there after you. I don't know why I have to read this. Dog ear. The brain sigh, mid-sentence, in process of migrating to the non-paper world. A bouquet of disparate sighs after a crowd of a few teenagers. The timbre of their laughing voices a foreign ditty. Can't go back to the old fiction of the scarecrow mocking you. Must change your course. Okay, okay, you are okay. I want to read something that Ed hasn't heard me read. The Killing Jar. An entomologist says in, a larva says out, larvae say out. You consider fences. Do you keep yourself in or out? Questions are fences. Can't stop asking. You consider glass. Separation relevant or irrelevant? Memory not reliable, though you vividly remember rain. Also the sun. That day feeling was a fence. I'm gonna read a couple more. Huh? Oh, the Richter poem. Okay. I somehow like went over it. It's like past it. It's a. All right, I'll read the Richter poem and then I'll read one more after that. Okay. Listening to Max Richter's The Departure on repeat. Dear you, I overheard the botanist say to high schoolers at the public gardens, look behind the flower for the swollen base. It took my breath away. And a young woman in the periphery of her peers noticed. She continued to look without it feeling like a stare, as if I was standing in shallow quicksand. I didn't feel shame at first, then walked away, and only looked back once. I imagined myself just before, out of sight. I never read this one, so I'm gonna read this one. And Sculpting essentially was a poem that I created out of language, borrowing from all the poems within. Sculpting, almost there, must revert, burgle the memory museum, find relevance within retrograde. Among the clutter, must identify the keynote. Brain sigh, fixed cage, a jaundiced brick built, voice conduct, baton, always something after us, ghosting, stargazer. A curtain, elsewhere fuse, faded 8-track tape, salami and licorice, mustard-colored leaves, gold-colored grass, the scarecrow, steel bucket, wood stove ashes, water, a squall. The squalls, also theirs, before these beginnings, a bang, and then you began to take form. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin. I think I will, yes, closing words or I'll make closing words. Okay, well, thanks everybody for coming to the Bureau this afternoon or watching us on live stream. For Kevin and Ed and Jason, and thanks to the Bureau itself and to Greg and the momentarily not here, Donnie, and to all of you for coming out today. Enjoy the rest of this beautiful day, and we'll see you here soon.
And there are books available at the back. I'm sure our poets would be happy to sign.
Thank you.
So you have to when that happens, let me know. And that's only
Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly.
Yeah.